kind of sticking on the theme of up and coming attractions. Primordial is a coaster that was planned for Lagoon. It's still being built as of now. And the name of this coaster, though, Primordial, is why we are discussing it today. Nothing actually with the coaster itself. Construction still seems to be going on as planned. Everything seems to be looking good for, I think, a 2021 opening date. However, the name is now up for grabs. Technically, Lagoon can no longer continue with the actual name because I think their trademark has expired, meaning that technically it's up for grabs, but also a lot of people are thinking that the park itself might just not continue with the name. They might not want to keep the name, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think people are reading into things that they're not really understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, I will also give the disclaimer: I'm not a patent clerk, I'm not a lawyer, so take this all with a grain of salt. But I did do some reading and look some certain things up. Whenever you apply for a trademark, um, you're granted that trademark, but then you have a
Mhm.
certain limit of time before you start using that trademark, because the whole purpose of a trademark is that you're using a name and you don't want anybody else to use that name as well.
Yeah.
So you have to be using that name in order to have a trademark.
Yep.
So when you apply for a trademark, you are granted a status where it's your trademark, but then you have a certain amount of time to actively start using it, and
Utilize
then
it.
you have
Yeah.
to prove that you're using that.
Hmm.
And then there's extensions that you can file, but there's only a limited amount of time. Like, you can only file so many extensions.
Hmm.
And there is actually, if you look up the trademark, which there's a link in the show notes that you can go and look at this yourself.
Yep.
The trademark was filed on August 5th, 2017.
Hmm.
And if you look through all of the events, like, gets published, and then in 2018, extension 1 was filed and it was granted.
Yep.
Then 227 2019, extension 2 was filed and then that was granted. Then they filed extension 3, which was at the end of 2019. They filed extension 4 at the beginning of this year. And now what's happened is they can't extend it anymore because they've reached their 3-year period where they've had this trademark and they haven't used it. So now
Hmm.
this trademark is going into an abandonment state, which essentially means that others can technically grab it, from what I'm understanding. But there are some protections that might be valid.
Hmm.
But the whole point of all of this is, it's not that the park said, oh, we're not going to call it Primordial anymore.
Yeah.
It's just that this got delayed and they ran out of time.
Yep.
This doesn't mean that they can't call it Primordial,
Hmm.
but this does mean another park could come in and potentially grab that name if they want to use it. And then
Yeah.
if they grab it, then Lagoon can't use it. So it's in this state of limbo. It doesn't necessarily mean, like, everybody's reading this as though the park decided they changed their mind. No, this is a legal situation. They just legally can't reserve this name any longer. And they probably also know, because of COVID-19 and everything, they they're probably going to be backed up a year at
Yeah.
least on this, even more. So they're not even bothering with it because they don't know what's going to happen in that time. So they're going
Hmm.
to probably wait and see. And then, if it's still available, they'll probably try to grab it and start using it, and
Yeah.
they can still get run with it. So it's just a wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah. So in reality, this is not, as people suspected, Lagoon running off and choosing a new name. This isn't. A lot of people were going and using like a comparison to Centurion, which was going to be at Carowinds, and then they switched it up to Fury, which is now Fury 325, the Giga Coaster, the B&M Giga Coaster now at Carowinds. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, this is what they're doing. They're kind of pulling a Carowinds here, and are kind of switching it up last minute." I don't think that's really what we're seeing. I mean, either way, this is kind of this would be an early switch.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I don't think they've even made a public
Right.
announcement
Yeah, they're
for
not even to that point. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
they're
So
still building this thing.
yeah.
I
Well.
think, I mean, this doesn't mean that they're not, like, they may be changing their mind.
Yeah.
Like this basically means nothing. Is everybody's trying to read all this into it, and it essentially means nothing other than it expired. Like that's it.
And
That's
of course,
literally all this means.
being Coaster Talk podcast, we had to be the Debbie Downers, and we had to give the information. We're your source, whether or not it's good information or not. We're your source for everything roller coasters.
Yeah. But like I said, check the show notes
Yep.
for the link, and you can check this out for yourself. I mean, it's all there, black and white. It clearly
Yeah.
says 9/28/2020. The trademark entered abandonment. No use statement filed. And they emailed the notice on the same time, and that's where it sits.
Yep. So Primordial at Lagoon will most likely still be called Primordial at Lagoon when you're at it next year, most likely.
Unless, like, Cedar Fair says, "Oh, that's a good name. Let's build something really quick." But see, then the whole thing is like whatever park would decide to snipe that, they have to actually build a coaster and start using it. So
then they'll have to file
it'd be a
5
race,
extensions.
right? Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like it would be a ridiculous amount of work for
Yeah.
another park to kind of steal it. And trademarks generally are within the same business sector, so you're not really going to have somebody like design a product called Primordial, and then they can coexist with a roller coaster named
Exactly.
Primordial. It
It just
doesn't
has to do
matter.
with like being in the same
It's about
industry, kind of. Yeah.
right, exactly. So the only places they really have to worry about are entertainment industry, and specifically theme parks.